Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
There comes a moment when silence becomes unbearable because you realize you've spoken more about who you'll become than acted on it. The promises you made in private echo louder than applause ever could. They live under your ribs, waiting for you to make them real. Each broken vow leaves a scar that no one can see, but you feel every morning when you look in the mirror. You can't negotiate with your potential forever. Sooner or later, it demands payment through discipline, sacrifice, and time. The version of you that once felt far away is not waiting in the distance. It's buried under your distractions, under your hesitation, under every excuse you've sold yourself to stay comfortable. The person you swore you'd become is not built in grand gestures, but through daily execution. People think transformation is a lightning strike. It's not. It's the slow friction of effort against resistance until something ignites. Every rep, every decision, every refusal to quit when your body begs for comfort. Those moments stack into the structure of the person you promised yourself. There is no magic day when it all clicks. There is only today, and what you do with it determines whether your promise lives or dies. The gap between who you are and who you said you'd be is not filled with luck. It's filled with consistency. Every time you delay, that gap widens. Every time you act, it closes. The promise you made to yourself isn't about achievement. It's about integrity. It's about proving to your soul that your word still holds value. If you say you'll rise early, then rise. If you say you'll train harder, then bleed for it. Because each moment of discipline is proof that you are still capable of being trusted by your own conscience. Too many people live waiting for the right conditions, not realizing that conditions are created by commitment. The person you aspire to be is forged when you decide that waiting is over. The storms, the setbacks, the isolation, they are not punishments. They are tests designed to confirm whether your promise was a wish or a vow. Wishes dissolve in hardship. Vows grow teeth. Every obstacle you face is a question. Every action you take is an answer. When you keep choosing effort, even when unseen, you send a signal to life that you're serious, and life always rewards the serious. The dream version of yourself is not a stranger. It's your potential under pressure. It's who you are when you stop negotiating with mediocrity. When you silence the noise, detach from approval, and move like someone who has already paid the price for transformation, you become unstoppable. The process will not be kind. It will break your illusions. It will humiliate your ego, but it will also free you. Because the moment you start living in alignment with your promise, peace returns, not the soft kind, but the earned kind that only warriors understand. You cannot carry the old you into the future you desire. The person you were made the promises. The person you must become fulfills them. That requires death, death of laziness, death of pride, death of comfort. Each layer must be burned away until only truth remains. The pain of shedding the old self is temporary, but the regret of keeping it lasts forever. Every time you choose growth over ease, you prove that your promise mattered more than your excuses. That's the essence of transformation, commitment surviving chaos. Progress doesn't announce itself. It moves quietly, accumulating in shadows until one day you realize the mirror reflects someone you once only imagined. You begin to carry yourself differently. You speak less because your work has started to speak louder. The person you promised you'd become doesn't need validation. They don't crave attention. They radiate authority because they've earned it in private. When your effort becomes sacred, results become inevitable. The process molds you long before the outcome arrives. The world doesn't owe you recognition for keeping your word. The satisfaction comes from knowing you didn't betray yourself. That's the real victory. To wake up and know you're living as the person you once hoped you'd be. The external rewards are byproducts. The internal alignment is the prize. Every day you act in accordance with that higher version, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you could be. And when those two finally merge, that's when peace replaces doubt. Becoming what you once swore you would is not about perfection. It's about repetition. It's about doing what you said you would, especially when no one is watching. You cannot fake that kind of growth. You cannot shortcut it. The muscles of integrity and discipline are carved through repetition and pain. The man who honors his word becomes dangerous because he no longer depends on motivation. He depends on momentum. That's when your life becomes unstoppable. Not because it's easy, but because you've made breaking your promise impossible. The mind learns who you are through repetition, not reflection. You can spend hours convincing yourself of confidence, discipline, or greatness, but unless your behavior confirms it, the brain will not believe it. Every action is a vote cast toward identity, and those votes compound until self-image becomes unshakable. Thought alone is too fragile. It bends under doubt. Action, however, hardens belief through evidence. When you do what you said you would, you anchor trust into your nervous system. That's how the image stabilizes, through proof, not imagination. The mind stops questioning who you are once your actions become consistent with your declarations. Every time you act, your brain takes notes. Neural pathways thicken, associations strengthen, and identity begins to lock in place. But inaction writes a different script. It teaches your brain that what you say holds no weight. The dissonance between intention and execution fractures your sense of self. Confidence collapses not from failure, but from inconsistency. The moment you act, even imperfectly, you close that gap. Each repetition is a reminder to your biology that you can be relied upon. Thought starts the engine, but movement drives it forward. Without momentum, belief has nothing to stand on. Action is the most honest form of self-talk. It bypasses the rationalizations of thought and communicates directly with your subconscious. You cannot lie to your nervous system. It only believes what you repeatedly do. That's why confidence cannot be spoken into existence. It must be performed. Every time you execute on a decision, you create a feedback loop that reinforces identity. The more loops you complete, the more stable your self-perception becomes. Eventually, who you believe yourself to be aligns perfectly with how you behave, and that alignment breeds peace. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to substitute motion with control. It convinces you that more clarity is needed before acting, when in reality, clarity is created through engagement. Each step forward reveals the next. Each action taken sharpens perception. The greatest transformation happens not in deep thought, but in disciplined execution. You do not think your way into a new self, you behave your way there. The body must lead, the mind must follow. When your actions outnumber your doubts, belief becomes automatic. The self you admire is already alive inside of you, waiting for repetition to sculpt it into form. Every deliberate act tells your brain, "This is who I am now." The first few times, the voice of doubt interrupts. But as you persist, that voice fades. Behavior builds credibility. When your habits align with your ideals, your brain finally relaxes. It stops fighting your new identity because the evidence outweighs skepticism. The mirror begins to reflect truth instead of potential. You become what you continually confirm through motion. Your nervous system requires reference points to stabilize identity. Without consistent evidence, it reverts to the familiar, even when the familiar is misery. That's why people relapse into old patterns. Their self-image doesn't recognize the new behavior as home yet. Repetition creates recognition. The more often you act in alignment with your desired self, the faster your brain adapts. Once identity locks in, effort becomes ease. You stop forcing progress because it becomes your natural expression. The war between who you were and who you're becoming ends when the feedback loop closes. You don't lose belief because you fail. You lose belief because you stop acting. Failure, when followed by another attempt, strengthens identity. Quitting erases it. Each recovery from a setback is a signal to your mind that resilience defines you. Each return after rejection reinforces permanence. These are not motivational ideas, they're neurological facts. The brain rewards consistency more than perfection. It would rather see a flawed repetition than an endless delay. Every small act repeated long enough becomes identity's foundation. The human mind is designed to conserve energy. Thinking feels safe because it costs less than doing. But safety drains vitality. Action feeds it. Every time you move toward your goal, dopamine fires, reinforcing your commitment. Over time, that chemical feedback forms addiction to progress. You begin to crave consistency more than comfort. This is how warriors, creators, and masters sustain their discipline. Not through superhuman willpower, but through rewired biology. They've trained their minds to find pleasure in doing rather than imagining. If you rely on thought alone, self-image remains unstable. It wavers with opinions, emotions, and external validation. But when it's built on behavior, it becomes unbreakable. You start to see yourself not as someone trying to improve, but as someone who simply lives that way. Thought creates possibilities, action creates identity. Each decision executed without hesitation turns your potential into proof. The brain eventually mirrors the life you consistently live. That's how the cycle completes. Behavior shapes belief, and belief fuels further behavior. Change happens faster than your brain can comprehend. You grow in silence, but your perception lags behind reality. Neural circuits don't immediately recognize progress because identity is built through repetition, and repetition takes time. When you start improving, your mind still clings to the old version of you, the one that failed, hesitated, or feared. It takes weeks for new proof to overwrite old programming. That lag is what people call self-doubt, but it's simply the delay between progress made and progress believed. The trick is to keep moving through the dissonance until your mind catches up with your evolution. Growth rarely feels like growth when you're inside it. It feels like confusion, like uncertainty, like standing on unstable ground. That's because the brain resists rewriting its own story. Every new success threatens the comfort of familiarity. The identity built from past struggle doesn't die easily. It protests through imposter syndrome, whispering that you're pretending, that your success is luck, that you don't belong in the rooms you've entered. But the truth is, you've earned every inch. The discomfort you feel is your mind trying to protect its outdated version of safety. Push through. The only way to reprogram that fear is by proving it wrong through continued motion. The mind measures itself through patterns. When your external reality changes faster than your habits, confusion arises. You're acting as a new person while your brain still references the old data. This mismatch creates internal noise. The feeling that you don't deserve what's happening. That's not failure. It's the process of neural realignment. Keep showing up. Each repetition rewires circuits to match the new you. Eventually, the noise fades and alignment replaces doubt. The mind begins to recognize its own evolution, but only after you've endured the tension between growth and disbelief. Imposter syndrome feeds on reflection without action. When you pause too long to analyze your worth, you open the door to distortion. But when you move, the analysis quiets. Motion grounds truth. Progress has its own rhythm, and your job is to stay in tempo with it. Every time you act, your mind receives sensory feedback that says, "This is who I am now." Over time, those signals synchronize with identity. Confidence doesn't appear in a burst. It accumulates through continuous evidence. Reflection should never lead progress. It should follow it. The delay between who you were and who you're becoming is sacred. It's the gray zone where transformation roots itself. Most people quit there because they mistake the confusion for failure. They don't realize that doubt is the final gatekeeper before integration. If you stop during the lag, your brain resets to the old pattern. But if you persist through the cognitive resistance, something incredible happens. The new self takes hold. You start to move without questioning, speak without hesitation, act without justification. That's when identity stabilizes. Evolution demands patience with perception. The human mind wasn't designed for rapid identity shifts. It updates slowly, one behavior at a time. But the world doesn't wait for your confidence to arrive. That's why persistence matters more than belief. You don't need to feel ready to act. You act until readiness becomes your baseline. When your results and reflection finally align, you'll realize that what once felt like pretending was simply rehearsing for your new role. The delay between evolution and recognition is natural. It's the time your mind needs to learn what your body already knows. Every person who has ever transcended their past faced the same delay. The artist who doubts their talent even as their work spreads worldwide. The leader who still feels like the outsider they once were. The athlete who still carries the hunger of the underdog. Growth always arrives before comfort. The mind, loyal to its history, hesitates to accept the new standard. But evolution never asks for permission. It demands adjustment. Keep creating, keep leading, keep performing. The more you act like the person you've become, the sooner your brain will stop looking backward. Progress feels foreign because success speaks a new language. Your neurons are translating in real time, and until fluency forms, discomfort remains. That discomfort is not proof you're an imposter. It's proof that you're advancing faster than your perception can stabilize. The worst thing you can do in this phase is stop. Stopping tells your brain that the old identity was right. Moving forward confirms that growth is real. Repetition convinces biology to adapt. Movement proves transformation. Identity isn't something you find. It's something you train your mind to recognize. The delay between action and acknowledgement is just part of the rewiring. You're not behind. You're ahead of your own recognition. Keep stacking proof through effort. Keep proving your commitment through persistence. The results will always appear before the belief does. But once the two merge, doubt vanishes and purpose becomes instinct. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment because the cost hides in silence. You tell yourself tomorrow will be better, that a little more energy, a little more time, a little more clarity will fix everything. But every delay accrues interest. The task doesn't just sit waiting. It compounds in mental weight, gnawing at your confidence. Each postponed action is an unpaid bill, and those debts collect fast. Potential is a currency, and procrastination is how you spend it without return. The time you avoid the work is the time you could have been compounding skill, resilience, or momentum. Every second wasted builds the invisible wall between what you are and what you could have been. Avoidance is seductive because it disguises itself as rest. The brain seeks safety, not progress. It mistakes stillness for recovery, but true rest comes only after completion, not avoidance. When you delay purpose, you delay peace. Every time you avoid the mission, you teach your brain that hesitation is acceptable. That conditioning becomes your cage. The longer you entertain it, the smaller your belief in yourself becomes. Regret doesn't arrive with a loud crash. It creeps in through quiet excuses repeated too often. The unpaid hours of effort turn into emotional overdrafts that suffocate ambition. Each day of delay costs compound interest in self-doubt. Momentum fades, ideas lose clarity, and enthusiasm decays. The task that once inspired you starts to feel impossible simply because you've distanced yourself from it. That's the cruel trick of procrastination. It inflates difficulty while shrinking confidence. The mind becomes its own creditor, demanding repayment through guilt. The only way to settle the debt is through movement, even if it's a fraction of progress. One step forward resets the equation. Every small action reclaims ownership of your potential. The difference between a visionary and a dreamer is motion. Visionaries act before they feel ready. Dreamers wait for perfection and drown in intention. The human mind was never meant to live in hypothetical loops. It thrives when engaged with friction. When you start, no matter how clumsy, your nervous system activates learning circuits. Your perception sharpens. Your energy aligns, your purpose gains weight. Progress doesn't reward talent, it rewards payment. You don't need massive leaps. You need consistent deposits of effort, daily even when invisible. Over time, those deposits form the wealth of mastery. Regret compounds faster than effort. You think time will forgive you for waiting, but it doesn't. It remembers every postponed goal and brings them back when you least expect it. You'll see someone living the life you could have built, and envy will whisper what you already knew. That you had the same time, the same 24 hours, but you traded yours for comfort. The cost of procrastination isn't failure. It's the haunting realization that you never even tried. Action, even imperfect, is cheaper than inaction paid in regret. Progress doesn't demand perfection. It demands payment. Even the smallest act of effort pays down the debt of delay. Write one line, learn one new thing. Do one hard task you've avoided. These are the pennies of progress that accumulate into freedom. The secret is not in intensity, but consistency. You don't win by sprinting once. You win by walking daily. Over time, that small discipline snowballs into identity. You become someone who moves, not someone who waits. That's the real wealth, momentum that self-perpetuates. The mind finds relief in completion, not contemplation. Every time you finish what you start, your brain rewards you with dopamine, reinforcing discipline. But when you delay, you interrupt that chemical feedback. The satisfaction that could have fueled your motivation dies in uncertainty. That's why starting is the cure. Once in motion, biology works in your favor. The task begins to pull you instead of push you. You start to crave progress instead of avoiding it. That shift is the moment procrastination loses power. Potential is a perishable asset. It devalues with time, not because you lose ability, but because unpracticed potential decays in confidence. Every time you act, you prove to yourself that your power still exists. That proof keeps potential alive. Avoidance kills it silently. You can't think your way back into momentum. You must act your way into it. Every small movement protects your edge from rust. Every day of effort keeps your inner fire from suffocating under hesitation. The illusion of endless time is the most expensive lie the mind tells. You think there will always be another chance, another hour, another tomorrow. But the truth is, the window for each opportunity closes faster than you realize. Life rewards urgency, not hesitation. The world moves whether you act or not. The difference is that when you delay, you watch others live your potential. That vision should terrify you enough to move. Not with panic, but with precision. with the calm understanding that today's effort compounds into tomorrow's freedom.